I wanted to do something a little different. And rather than just me creating it, I'm going to go ahead and do the reaction thing and just use somebody else's video to get my point across. So let's get started.
This is how I see the US after living in Europe for almost 2 years.
I lived in Europe for, if you add the years I was in Germany and then went to Spain and also lived in Italy, maybe probably a total of 5 or 6 years, give or take. Let's see what he has to say and then I'll put in my 2 cents.
And let's just say it changed me, but not in the way I thought it would. The work-life balance. Now, this is a big generalization because I know that there's countries in the European Union that work very hard and want everything to be perfect. Germany. But for the most part, it seems that one of the most important things to Europeans is their quality of life.
I lived in Germany.
There is this generalization that a lot of Europeans don't work as hard as Americans. And I don't think that's completely true. Many cafes and restaurants in Europe have the same owner from the start to finish. They never retire. They do the same thing with very exceptional quality until the day they die. And this isn't something that happens too often in the United States. This is one of the reasons that I think in Europe, the food quality generally tends to be a bit better even.
Yes, yes, work-life balance is crazier over there. Not crazier in a bad way, crazy nice over there. You have a lot more life over there than you do here. Here is live to work, over there is work to live. But we've got to understand they are a lot older than us. They've already figured it out. They've already been through a lot more stuff than we have. A lot more. So they've kind of figured out all of that side of the world has figured out from all the way from up in Russia all the way down to the tip of Africa and even Australia. They've already figured it out. This side is fairly new. So yes, it's the they've already got that work life balance going good. Like, okay, this works, this doesn't. We got to work like this. And also you got to factor in a lot of political stuff when it comes to the way the government is ran into that. But that's a double-edged sword, and I'll get into that later.
And it's pretty obvious when I speak to friends and family back in the United States that they kind of have this rushed agenda where they're trying to get as much done as they can throughout the day.
Yes.
And this was me included when I lived in the United States and I was working 12-hour days, sometimes 6 days a week.
Yes. When I did live in Europe, I worked 4.5 days because Friday was a half day. And that's just my thing. I know some people work 5 days, but definitely not a weekend. There's no way, nothing in the world would make us come in. And I worked for the Italian Air Force, okay? And there's nothing in the world, unless there was some kind of war or something, that would make us go in on the weekend. And I think on the weekend, if there was a war, they probably wouldn't fight. I don't know, but nothing in the world would make us go in on the weekend. And when it was time off, it was time off. I remember saying to these guys, "Hey, there's some work." When I first got there, "Hey, there's some work I gotta finish. You think I could stay a little extra?" And they're like, "No."
But I was missing out on some of the most important things like stopping and really listening to my friends and family. And I think that this is one of the most important things to most Europeans. I think this idea in the United States of having these big achievements and never being forgotten is something that's really important. However, in Europe, they have the right to be forgotten. There is actually a law in Europe that is the right to be forgotten. Now, this is a foreign concept that I don't think Americans think about a lot. In Europe, if you've had an imperfect past, the European Union allows you to move past that.
That's another thing over there. Over here, we're extreme in everything. We are extreme. We want to be so different from that. We came here with the mindset of, oh, let's get away from the kingship and all that stuff. We want to be different. You know what I'm saying? They do kilometers. We're doing miles. You know what I mean? They're doing kilos. We're doing pounds. It's different. We want to be so different that we just changed everything up. But now it's like we're extreme in everything. One thing I will say is if your plan is to get rich, you do it here in the United States. You're not that you can't do it in Europe. There's a lot of millionaires there, but not more than here. here, and you can't get rich faster than here. This is the one that probably the country where you can get the richest fastest, aside from joining a cartel in some other country.
I have come to the conclusion that the United States is currently in a state of toxic extremism. It's not very common in Europe to hear people arguing about politics, blaming unrelated issues on opposing political parties or specific politicians. It's just something you don't really hear that often. Now,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that Europeans aren't political. However, you don't see it tearing apart families based on the president or prime minister that they voted for.
Here, everything is left, right. I mean, we are Bloods and Crips. We are Bloods and Crips. Everything is left, right. They take politics way too seriously. Uh, and it's something I tell my daughter. I'm like, yo, don't like I haven't told her, but it's like she came here and immediately started talking about, oh, this Trump there, and I'm like, why does she care? Like, she came from a place that's they don't really like. Yeah, they talk about it, but it's like not like here. They don't like the people. I'm not talking about the politicians, but the people aren't gonna go at each other's throat like they do here. Here, people slap each other and all that stuff. People get into fights over it, and it's stupid. I really don't care for it. You know what I mean? I have my beliefs, but I'm not like die hard dying about it. You know what I mean? And I want to get her away from that because she's becoming like, oh, but Trump this and that. And I'm like, yo, just it doesn't matter. Just live.
If you come from a place in the United States like Detroit or Flint, Michigan, like I do, then safety is a night and day difference here in Europe. Especially Portugal, which has been ranked one of the top 10 safest countries in the world. After living in Europe for 2
Listen, where I lived in Manfredonia in Italy, I literally felt safe, bro. I didn't carry no weapon on me, obviously. Here I do. It's Florida, but I had no. And here I feel like it's gonna be the day I leave it. Is the day that I leave it in the car or leave it in the house is gonna be the day I need it. So I always carry it. And you know, look. I just felt safer over there. I just felt really safe over there. My kids would go out with friends in Italy over there, and he didn't even speak Italian, and it was just like, okay, he's fine. I didn't feel any which way. While I was there, I did not hear anything about this happened to a kid or this happened to someone. There was one incident the whole year I was there. One incident, and we talked about it for I think an hour, and never talked about it again.
the food. Unless you have the financial means to do so, you are likely paying 4 times for gourmet foods in the United States, where in Europe, these foods are just the normal. In America, fresh, healthy food is usually sold at a premium where only the richer people can afford it.
That's standard over there. It's standard. Like Whole Foods is standard. It's standard. Like if you want to live on the edge and eat the American stuff, you have to go to like a special place that sells American stuff. And that's like if you want to like that's like you gotta buy that shit like in an alley or something. Because it's like no, you don't really have to do that. But they have stores where they sell American stuff, and but I didn't see any of that where I lived in Italy because it was a small town, and the food was just amazing. Food was just amazing over there, man. It was just everything. Even the McDonald's tasted fresher.
Typically in Europe, teenagers speak multiple different languages. They're well versed in fine arts and music, and they understand world geography. Generally, just much more cultured than what I see typically in the United States.
That's true. Also, my kids went to school there, and my daughter grew up there, and you know, she speaks multiple languages, and my son's here to speak English, not even Spanish, and we're Latin, and here is just like learn about this bubble you live in. That's it. Just learn about this bubble. Over there, they learn about everything. Now, sometimes what they learn about this side is a little bit twisted. Unless you live here, you're not going to know. Unless you live anywhere, you're not really going to know. You're just going to know what they show you in the book or what you see on the internet. right? And you assume you know about it, but you don't until you live here and experience it, or you live there and experience it. So I'm not gonna go too deep in that, but yes, they are more cultured. They do. I think the education is way better over there.
I know many people, including myself, that are afraid to go to the doctor in the United States because of how much it's going to cost. And it's a complete opposite contrast here in Europe, where many of my friends go to the doctor regularly just to get a checkup because they can. And it seems to be encouraged by the doctors. In Europe, things like blood tests and exams are a fraction of the cost that they are in the United States.
So yes, that is very, very true. We going for basic stuff is cost nothing. I remember we went to get medicine and it was nothing. I mean, we paid nothing, what, €6 for something or €5? I don't remember. It was nothing. Going to the doctor. Now I will say, if you need a procedure, that's where you're gonna be like, because since it is free, when you need a procedure, everybody can go. There's only so many doctors, right? So my wife, we drove everywhere to try to get her this procedure. She ended up having to come back to the States to get it right away. She was in a lot of pain and she just couldn't get it in time. They were making her wait like 4 or 5 months. Yes, it was free, but you're gonna be in pain for 4 or 5 months waiting for the procedure. You know what I'm saying? If you if it's something where they feel like, oh, you could wait. They felt like she could wait, so you know what I'm saying? That was the only little caveat, but other than that, everything, it's free.
Now, alcoholism certainly exists in Europe, that's for sure. But the drinking culture in the United States is completely different than most of Europe, maybe more similar to Ireland or United Kingdom. A lot of European countries have a long history with wine and beer, and they've developed an art form on when and where and how much to drink.
I'm not saying there are no drunks in Italy. And I'm using Italy as an example because when I was in Germany, it was with a lot of Americans. This was many years ago, over 20 years ago. And well, not me, I didn't drink like that, but they used to get drunk a lot and do a lot of dumb shit. But the American way. So, but in Italy and even in Spain, it's like they know how to drink. Like there was no, I'm not saying nothing bad ever happens. Alcohol is alcohol, but you didn't see it like you see it here. Like it's normal to see some asshole drunk in the gas station. Over there, it was like no, it was like classy drink. It was like a classy drunk, like people you want to get drunk with. If I was like, oh man, I really want to drink, I want to do it with a European.
Don't be that guy stumbling through the streets. They will think you are a complete idiot. Do yourself a favor and don't be that guy. But how I see the United States now is not all negative, and there are some things that I took for granted while growing up there. One of those things is the American dream. Now, a lot of people said that is dead, but I believe the spirit is still very alive and well. The concept of entrepreneurship is not as popular here in Europe as it is in the United States.
That's what I was saying.
The United States is a place where people have a dream and they can move that future forward. And I have to credit that optimism for the entrepreneur spirit that I have today. And I never realized how truly American this concept was. And I would not be where I'm at today without this hustler go-getter mentality.
So that's the big difference over there. That's the big difference. It's like over there they kind of oh, I just want to live my life and party now that I'm young, which makes sense, yes. But they don't have that entrepreneur spirit, that go-getter spirit, that hustler. They don't really. I'm not saying all of them. A lot of them do if they want to do something, you know what I'm saying? But it's not normal. It's kind of just like, just there, just live, enjoy yourself, live life, be happy, and that's great. Over here, if you want to be rich, you can. If you want to just make it, you just want, I'm going to open up a store here, do this, do that, do that. It's a lot easier here to do it if you have the hustler spirit in you. If you don't, it's not. You're not gonna make it here. You're gonna be the people that complain about everything. If you're not a hustler, if you're not putting in that work, you know what I mean? That's the American essence of hustling. You're not gonna make it. You know what I mean? You're just not gonna make it. Uh, and unfortunately, that's how it is. While Europe has great things, why I'm looking at it for retirement for me and my wife. You know what I mean? Because I've hustled all these years in the U.S. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to put all my money together, get all this income that what I'm saying, and just go there and retire. I'm saying, and chill, and then just travel and do that all that European stuff. I don't care about going to the club or nothing. I just want to travel and do, what I'm saying, all over Europe and do this, just relax and drink my wine, smoke my cigar. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to do. And I want to be able to have all the money to do it where I don't have to go to work. And I'm going to. To do business here, you gotta have that. You know what I'm saying? This is a life war here. You know what I mean? If you're not ready for that, then don't live here. I wouldn't come here. Um, if you can handle it, come. Especially big cities like in New York and the big city, Miami, L.A., California, whatever, San Diego. Um, you gotta have that spirit. But that's how it is in Europe. Is just very chill. If you've already got your stuff set, you want to if you want to be one of those digital nomads like me, you'll make enough where I can probably go right now to Europe, but I got stuff with the kids and my parents that I'm doing, so I can't leave. If not, I'd be gone already. Trust me, I'm trying to leave. I'd be gone already over there. Me and my wife loved it. We had no regrets. Even the bad stuff was good. Was tolerable. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere has something negative. Everywhere you go, there's no perfect place. If you think there's a perfect place, go back to sleep. Um, there's no perfect place, but I think we know where we want to retire. But anyway, guys, that's all I got. Let me know if you've ever been to Europe. What do you think of Europe or any other country you've been in that you think, oh, this how it is here? If you agree or not, and leave your comments in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you on the next smoke.